Okay, so we get to record. Fun times. Hello, welcome back to Casual Experts, show where we get to talk about hobbies and card games in general. So, I'm one of your hosts, Alec.
And I'm Lucas. Nice to meet you.
So, this is a fun episode because this is the second iteration of this deleted scenes, lost episodes kind of shit.
Iteration 1 will never be seen except by me, and I laugh at it. But that's okay.
I don't think we've ever stopped laughing at us. I love the Discord.
Thank you for the memes, by the way. If you're listening to this, you know who you are, and it's much appreciated.
I'm gonna go out onto a beach one of these days just to put myself in that. I'm gonna replicate that.
Who is Alec?
No one knows for sure. So we'll move on to the actual topic of today, and the topic of last week, technically, cheating. A fun thing, and a very easy way for us to segue into the fact that we're going to try and make these shorter, easier to listen through podcasts. Aim for 25 to 30 minutes. If we hit lower, fantastic, as long as we can agree that it's enough content.
We will not.
We will not, but we're going to aim. We're going to miss.
We're going to aim, miss, but we're going to miss consistently. So, there's that.
It's like Lombardi. Yeah, Vincent Lombardi. For a moment, I'm like, Lambo. No, I'm a fucking idiot. Lombardi time. We want to aim for a time earlier to make sure that if something happens, we're not doing something extreme. But we're going to move on to the actual topic of today, cheating. Types of cheating, how to recognize it, and generally where you'll see it.
And granted, we're just covering card games in this episode. Most cheating, most board games and other related cheating can be associated to either misinformation or just straight up lying. That's generally how it is. So in card games, it gets a little bit more specific and a little bit more diverse.
Yeah, mainly because trying to mess with people with cards has been around for a while. It's Magic, not the Gathering, just prestidigitation.
Yup.
So that's actually where we can move into first topic. Very straightforward. Happens in many card games. You play poker with your friends, and there's that one guy who always seems to win a bit too much by the end of the evening. And there's a chance this kind of thing is happening, either palming or pocketing.
Mm-hmm.
Very straightforward. Very simple. You use physical body parts or clothing to obscure cards in order to try and use them later.
Yes, larger hands generally work well. My hands.
Tiny man Lucas. Not even that short, but just a few things that are just not proportionate. Mainly your hands.
They're not that small. Now you're making me super self-conscious about my hands, dude. They're not that small. They are proportionate. I'm not the largest man, okay? Not everything's proportionate. That's true. But anyways, my hands are relatively small. It'd be hard to fit multiple cards in my hand. I might be able to get one inconspicuous card.
Whereas I have a normal sized hand. I used to do Magic in my free time just because my brother would get the books, I'd get the books. They're fun. So I'm used to palming cards to an extent, so I could probably pocket maybe like 3 cards non-noticeably if I just relax my hands casually enough. But it's straightforward, basically. You just go ahead and take 2 corners. You go ahead and lock them in. Those cards will stick to your hand like glue. And as long as you don't change the angle of your hand or do something weird, just have it relaxed, for the most part, people aren't going to notice it.
Yeah, and so how this works is after you shuffle up your decks, you usually offer your opponent a cut. You have these 2 cards in your hand. You're just lying on the table inconspicuously. You're trying to set up your hand. So it can be more. It can be...
Let's say worst case scenario, it's a combo deck. Let's say there's 2 or 3 cards you need to win the game, and you happen to keep those cards in your hand, so you know as long as your hand doesn't get torn apart or something happens, you just have to wait until you win.
And it's a terrible thing to do. People do it at tournaments. There's the ignorance that people don't know about it and happens. And it sucks. It's wrong. But it's just another form of cheating.
Yeah, and I said it as the first point. It happens in poker too.
Oh god. It's a mosquito. I squished it. There's blood everywhere.
I love that this is in the recording now. We'll move forward. Poker, very common. Basically, it's one of the easiest things to do, which is why it exists in just about every card game. And it sucks, but it's not going away.
No, you just gotta have people informed and know what they're looking for.
If you see someone who's doing a slightly weirdly open hand, that's just a thing to keep an eye out for. If you ever suspect something and you're doing competitive play, call a judge. If you're doing casual play, just ask them honestly. Just be forthcoming. Just say, hand's looking a little weird there. Playing an honest game, right? If they try and shake it off, just go ahead and say, hey, this will be last game of the night. I think I'm done. Just move on. If someone's going to do something like that, they're probably in a situation where they're not going to either try to be honest or they're not going to fix it. If they're doing it in casual kind of things, they're not part of your casual group anymore. That's not something you do in...
I hate people who cheat in casual. So it doesn't matter the game. I hate you if you cheat in casual. You're a terrible person, and you should feel bad. If it's accidentally you miss something, it's technically cheating, but it's like, oh, I missed that one thing I was supposed to do.
Playing a board game, you think about a rule, you think of 2 ways it could be done, you figure out which one's the most logical, but you decide to do the other one because it gets you where you need to be. We talked about house. House is an easy one for that. All you have to do is just have an argument over how the rules work. If you know how they work, just slowly try and whittle the person's opinion towards the other way. But I think that's... Well, we can move on to the next one. We've got a list here that we're actually going to try and stick to make sure that we don't get too far off topic. Swapping cards under the table.
It's kind of like another form of palming, but it's...
Hiding cards.
Yeah,
it's just pocketing cards.
Hiding cards.
There's a very good example of that, and I get to pull that one up. So, I hate that we keep looping back to Magic just because it's in the memes now.
I know! We can't not Magic. I'm sorry.
So, basically, there's an easy one in Magic. Person, very, very good at the game. And regardless of this, a good player, but kind of sucks that he had a game loss and there was an investigation. I don't remember exactly how it turned out because this was before I was in Magic, and it's basically information that I've just been reading over preparing for this episode. But essentially, Mike Long, one of the things that he had in a match under the table was in his lap. Got called out for it, and that or it was nope, Mike Long. Because I've got 2 names that start with M, and I don't want to mix them up. Mike Long had card in his lap. I don't remember if it was if it was proven to be him intentionally doing it, if it was an issue where it was rules level enforcement calling him out on an accidental thing, but either way, card under the table.
Paul did tell me that the under the table thing happened at Worlds for Yu at some point. I don't know what year, but apparently that did happen and they did get caught.
Do we want to link to an article? Do we want to...
If I can find it, I will link to it.
Yeah, we'll try and find the person's name and just link to an article about that one, because I don't have information prepared and we're not going to search for that at the moment.
Yep. Alright.
Misinformation. So... This is what we were talking about. You either whittle people's opinions, or you just slyly do things, and you do it confidently.
You straight lie to them.
So, I just love this. I'm trying to remember. Here we go. Alex Bertoncini, or Alex Bertoncini. So, main deck day sideboard card, game 1. Kira Spinner. I was talking to you about this before the podcast. Basically, he had a card, supposed to do a thing, and someone was trying to do 2 things in order to get rid of it, because you basically have to whittle a shield down. He just let the first one go instead of having it go shields down, picked up the card. And there was a couple other things. 3 lands played, basically. Like in Yu-Gi-Oh, there's only 1 normal summon. You only get 1 land per turn unless you do something else. He played 3 when he only had the availability for 2. multiple things. And
And, like, granted, some of that can be aired, like, oh, did I play a land this turn? But at a point, it becomes known, like, oh,
this
I
is
definitely...
consistent behavior.
And if you say you have the 3 lands, you play a 3rd land consistently, it's like, and your opponent catches you on, it's like, oh, my bad. And it's usually not too bad, you just pick up the land. But...
if it's suspect behavior...
if it is suspect behavior, you'll get caught because it's cheating. But the thing is... in my opinion, most people are generally good-natured, like, oh, you already played a land this turn, you inform them, they're just going to pick up the land, and that's it. It's going to be like, you probably know judge calls that.
You walk back your steps, you try and clear it up, but if it's a pattern, it's consistently noticed, judge is called, it goes from being a game loss, or just walking back an event, turns into you being disqualified, or even worse if the investigation proves more behavior.
Just don't cheat.
Don't be an asshole.
Don't be an asshole.
The golden rule. Don't be a dick to people. Oh, now we get to move on to the other thing, which is not playing with a fair deck at the table. So all this, feasibly, people could have had truly random decks, could have had an actual honest thing, minus like pocketing under the table.
Mm-hmm.
But that's saying that the rest of the game, besides trying to load up your hand, were honest. Now we get to go into weaving.
Oh boy.
And lacing. Basically, if you don't know, the whole point of a card game is to build a deck that, even if randomness is a factor, you're going to have fun, you're going to do cool things.
Performs optimally under randomization.
Now, the real way to rarely lose with a deck is to not have things be random at all. Why leave things chance in a game of chance?
Yeah, why would you?
And skill.
Why would you do that?
Why replace chance and skill with
just...
anything else but order and unfair play? I mean, why do it? Oh, because you're a normal human being who's not an asshole. Golden rule. So, weaving, lacing, basic concept. You try and remove the randomness from your deck by doing things like nickel and dime? Or 2 nickel?
I don't
There's a
remember.
specific way of referring to it, but basically, you remove the randomness from your deck, and then you change the order of the deck. So normally, how it goes is there's randomness. You can think of randomness like a certain probability that cards will pop up together.
All equal probability that cards will pop up together.
Now, randomness applies no matter how many times you restack a deck, resort cards. As long as something is truly random and you're only performing things that would change the order of them, like cutting, you're going to have a fair deck that's truly random. Now, if you take a nickel and dime approach, or double nickel, I can't remember what it is.
One of the two.
Basically, you take out the randomness and then use order to disguise it. So what you do is you just stack your deck in a certain way, so that way all of your hands are optimal. Doesn't matter how someone cuts it, you're going to have enough lands, certain cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Like enough spells to creature, monster. Spells to monsters kind of situation, spells, traps, monsters. Certain bounds. Now, the best part about this is because all you did was change order, if you think something's going on, you can reverse that. There's a video that just shows it better than I can probably put it up on the screen, and we'll link to that. Essentially, if you just go ahead and call a judge over, let them know what you're doing, saying, hey, I'm just going to do this real quick. This shouldn't change randomness at all I'm doing is changing the order. You basically make 5 piles, pick them up, make 5 piles again. You do that a certain way, and by the end of it, if you notice that there's a certain order to them, you've exhibited that randomness was not a factor in the game. It was someone stacking their deck, they're disqualified. Happens in Yu-Gi-Oh! Happens in Magic. It happens more in Magic just because Magic, you have a resource that you have to try and hit consistently.
Yeah, well, in Yu-Gi-Oh! You just need your monsters. Like, in combo, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! is a very combo-heavy game, but you need certain monsters in the game. Meanwhile, Magic, you have to have a denominatory resource to be able to even play the game.
You have mana. If you play Hearthstone, you
Unless
have
you're
mana.
playing Dredge. Which we're not going into, sorry.
Another one for the meme. Touch
Oh.
magic, leave it alone.
Yep. Can't help it.
Poke it with a stick.
Anyways.
Well, we'll move on from that to scummy.
So
being scummy, you're not fundamentally breaking a rule. You're leveraging rules that are perfectly valid in a way that is just you're taking the step of basically rule sharking someone on their own cards.
You're being an asshole. Why you gotta be like this? This is why no one likes you. Come on. Step up your game.
You know, I'm really tempted to just put fucking Brea in there for one of these things, and then put up Chalice of the Void. just show visuals. But that requires me to actually have a editor that will do things and not be a pain. But let's go ahead and use one of the cards I just mentioned. We'll use a Magic example. We'll use a Yu-Gi-Oh example. Unfortunately, don't really have a Pokemon example because I've been out of that scene for a while now, so it's a little bit hard to reference that. But we can use a few other games that are easy to reference.
What's a Pokemon? Sorry, Pokemon.
You see, when a female and a male Pokemon are I was gonna say held hostage or kept hostage, and it came out.
Kept hostage.
When they're held hostage at a daycare, they seem to.
God. All right, we're moving on.
Chalice of the Void, you say?
Chalice of the Void. That's what I heard. So Chalice of the Void, basically, artifact spell that
you trade a certain amount of mana put into it to stop certain spells from being played later.
Mm-hmm.
The more you throw into it, the higher a level spell you think you're going to be blocking from it. So you're playing against someone who plays a lot of 1 mana, 2 mana spells. You want to either lock down one of those or the other one. Probably one first, because then you don't mess yourself up by trying to cast a Chalice for 1 after you have a Chalice for 2 out. Like an idiot.
Yeah.
But essentially, how it goes with that is the responsibility for saying that a spell is countered is the person who owns a Chalice. It is not a thing that just automatically happens. There is a responsibility to it. And if you're someone that's on the other side of a Chalice, the correct play and the scummy play your spells into it. If someone doesn't catch their trigger, it is their fault. You move on with your spell resolving. Now, some of the times, if you're, like I said, casual, competitive, different things. But if you're playing competitive, if it's a higher level event, these effects will go through. If it's a lower level event, and they call the judge over, they might just have you walk things back. So that way they get a one off of remember your triggers. But essentially, depending on the deck you're playing, it might benefit you to throw things into it regardless of it getting countered. Sometimes, like we've both done it, where we say, throw this into Chalice. So you're confirming with them because it doesn't help to speed up the game to have them say their response to it every time.
It doesn't help you to say, throw this into Chalice. If you just say, cast this, and they don't say anything, you're like, cast this, or like one example is Lightning Bolt.
Yep.
1 mana, deal 3 damage, they have a Chalice in 1. You say, deal 3 damage to your face.
Bolt you in the face.
And if they're like, okay, your spell resolves, and they mark it down,
and you move forward. That's
like, it's a scummy thing to do, like, but
I've done it before where I've accidentally, like, up until then I'm like, into Chalice, because I don't want to wait for him to say counter. I want to go ahead and cast these spells because I need more spells engraved to play a card for better value. So I was willingly saying like, yeah, into Chalice. And we moved on because he was either going to combo me out or I was going to grind enough things into the graveyard in order to play something that basically got me more cards. And I know you said you, in the Lost episode, had a situation not too far off.
Yeah. At a recent tournament, this guy had Chalice on 1, and I was playing Burn in Legacy.
A lot of 1-mana spells in that deck.
I think it's over half the deck is 1-mana spells.
Which is very logical for a burn to do. You want to play a lot of things real fast and kill your opponent before they get to do things.
And I had already resolved the 1-mana spell on my turn 1 before he got Chalice down. So what I did is I just kept casting them because I have Prowess Trigger. Prowess is whenever you cast a spell, not that it resolves, on cast, or a non-creature spell specifically, your creature gets +1/+1 till end of turn.
So basically,
I was like, cast Lightning Bolt, negated by Chalice. I was actively saying it.
So instead of Bolt becoming 4 damage, it becomes an extra 1 damage, but that still matters in this game.
Mm-hmm.
They've only got 20 life. The more that you can get that damage in now before they can do more significant things, the better. So you throw things into Chalice, doesn't matter, you want to punch them in the face for more damage.
And granted, it would have been theoretically acceptable, rules acceptable, had I attempted to get every single one through and him not notice. He even said he was a new player to Legacy, and I was not going to let that happen. Like, on my moral conscience, even though it's not technically wrong, I could not do that.
Yeah, no. There's a little bit of a... This is why we want to be casual experts, so that way we don't have to worry about all the competitive things that feel wrong but are right.
Yeah. It's the bad feeling. Anyways, now that's our Magic example.
Yu-Gi-Oh! So, god damn it. Jin Gate. Fucking ridiculous. Jin Gate is stupid. So, basically, 2 people were playing a very popular deck at the time. They were playing Necroz. Necroz is very straightforward. You want to do ritual summons, a certain type of special summon in the game to play very powerful things. Now, at the time, they'd release cards where if you fed those cards into the ritual summon, they would do effects for you, and it was cool. Except, one of those cards prevented the other person from doing special summons. I don't remember if it was specifically,
I think it was ritual summons.
It basically ruined the mirror match.
So what happened was, this was apparently in a casual event. 2 players were playing against each other, and they both had this card in their main deck.
I don't remember if it was casual.
I believe
it was ARG
casual.
Fort Lauderdale.
Never mind, it was not casual. I thought it was casual. I was mistaken.
It was Patrick Hoban. And Patrick, that was a scummy move. So, normally that card ruins mirror matches. It means whoever plays it first basically wins the game, and that's not exactly what you want to do in a card game. You want to actually have a game of skill. And sometimes it's worth it for you as a player to say, hey, I'm fine if we both step down the power of our decks in that small edge in winning, so we can have a more engaging, more fun match. That's a perfectly valid thing to do. So, I don't remember if it was Patrick or if it was his opponent who made the offer for it. But basically, they came to the agreement. They're like, hey, let's not lock each other's decks out of the game. Why don't we sideboard out these cards? So, they do. Except Patrick seems to have played a Jin. The Jin Releaser of Rituals, that card that kind of locks out the other deck. So what he had done, he honored the agreement. He sideboarded out his Jin to bring in the Jin from sideboard. Like an asshole.
Technically switching 2 cards in his deck.
But that was not the agreement that they made. In spirit.
In spirit. In technicality, yes, not in spirit. But it's just one of those things like...
You can consider it cheating. You can consider it not cheating. Because cheating would be either A, doing things that are against an agreement or rules in order to get an edge, or to set up a scenario in which you disadvantage your opponent based on misinformation. And that's exactly what happened. He gave him information that was only half true in order to get to a situation where he had a better chance of winning because he was the only one who could lock the other person out of the game.
I think he won. I don't remember if he did or not. It's just stuff like that. It's just leaves a sour taste in your mouth.
And this was a competitive event. This was something where the qualification for going on to more stuff, I believe, was on the line. So He didn't take the honorable road of saying, "Hey, let's have the better player, or let's just have a good game. Whoever wins wins." You know, like most sportsmen would actually agree to. You play baseball, go out there. You're like, "Hey, if we have an enjoyable game, feel like everyone tried to do what they're going for, no one should feel bad about the results. We had a good game." Nope. That's like saying, "Hey, we just banned steroids." What? Needle in arm.
Okay,
Yes.
cool. Steroids are banned. Let's go. Yeah.
Ah, damn it! You did the one thing that we said not to do. No clapping. No. Oh, I'm gonna have to try and remove that. You son of a bitch. Oh, God, why? We had so very few rules. Okay. Well, now that I get to look forward to that, I think we've talked about all the topics that we wanted to, and we're actually at a point where I think we can go ahead and say, that's not a clap, by the way. That was not a clap.
That was basically clap.
Get out of here.
Come on, man.
I'll kick you out of my room.
I'm leaving soon anyways.
Alright, so I think we're at a point where we can go ahead and say that this podcast was a success. We talked about topics. We stayed on point. We did tangents to a reasonable extent.
We did it less than 30 minutes.
All goals made. We didn't reference some of the in-jokes of the other episode either.
No,
Part
of course
Lucas.
we did.
You'll never know. Alright. Well, that was fun. I'd like to say goodnight. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Good night.